Nintendo has stuck to its guns about that 20 million Switch sales goal it set for its current fiscal year at every turn, including in a recent interview published on the Sankei news and translated by Nintendo Everything. In that chat, Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa once again reaffirmed Nintendo's Switch sales goal, while also noting that Nintendo is not looking to release a Switch successor or even cut the price of the current model. It is an extremely ambitious but worthwhile achievement, so we will maintain this goal, said Furukawa. Nintendo Switch is our primary sales objective, and we are not considering a successor or a price cut at this time. Though Furukawa's comment on the subject is incredibly brief, it potentially serves to address rumors that have been circulating since late last year that Nintendo has an updated version of the Switch in the works and planned for a 2019 release. The Switch itself just emerged from its second holiday season with, according to the Apt Group, an incredibly strong end to the year. The group listed the Switch as the best-selling console of 2018, noting also that the system broke the wise 2009 record for the most dollar sales during the month of December. The report attributed some of that December success to the release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate that month, and Furukawa similarly praised the 3 million week one sales of Ultimate in his chat with the Sankei News. Sometimes in game creation, we have to repeat the same task again and again for every asset we are creating. Modeling, of mapping, texture painting and so on. It can be tempting to try to automatize, at least partially, some of these tasks, especially when some assets are almost always the same ones. This recently happened to me on my adventure game, A Thief's Melody, when I tried to create film around every island in the game world. I quickly realized that it would be a time-consuming task, and I asked myself if I could find a faster way to deal with it. So I experimented with procedural texturing and automatic mapping in order to create a cartoonish form without too much effort on mapping. Thus, in this article, I will explain my thinking process and the different choices I have made to create this, the final form rendering in my game. Here, I use Unity as a game engine, Blender for modeling and texturing, and Krita to paint textures. My game takes place in a motion-covered world, so having foam on the shores seems necessary. My biggest problem here is that my game is still being modified and island shapes may change and islands may appear. So, I want to find a way to create foam. It's not fast enough. Moreover, I may change the designs many times for a single island, and I do not want to have to recreate foam meshes from scratch every time. A while ago, some friends pointed to me the Rime VFX breakdown video by Simon-T. Rampla. There are many incredible tricks in this one. The foam in particular is very well crafted, and the effect is stunning, as long as you go for a stylized rendering of colors. The only problem I saw with this approach is that it is a bit daunting to create seamless maps for each foam mesh. Indeed, in Blender, when you want a ring circular mesh to have a seamless mapping, you need to perfectly align manually the map so that the image repeats itself without breaking the pattern. It's okay for a single asset, but for many unique islands and rocks in my game, it's more than I can handle. In addition, with cyclic seamless mapping, if you need to tweak the wavelength afterwards, you cannot scale texture coordinates as you want. You are limited to integer multiples. I have to find something else. Process of scaling of map to get rid of the same Perfectly matching both sides of the seam can be quite long for many assets. Ideally, I aim at, as usual, my approach is far from perfect, and is only a compromise between what matters to me and what is technically reachable. To me, my first idea was to use automatic of coordinates, such as vertex world coordinates, which works pretty well for my procedural terrain mapping, which I might explain to one day, hopefully. However, world coordinates do not embed any kind of information about an hypothetical, privileged direction. This means I cannot have a classical film texture with lines along the sharp edge like the one below, because it would be okay on some sides of an island, but not on the other sides. In this texture, there is a strong global direction, horizontal. The corresponding endgame look with world coordinates does not work. When I use automatic mapping, I must have some neutral uniform texture, direction-wise. For example, something like this, a simple foam texture with moment direction. The corresponding endgame look is a bit better. Okay, this is better, but it's still a bit stiff and disappointing. But that's the price to pay for an automatic method. Anyways, it does not seem to be enough to get visually interesting foam. Now, if I want some lines along the shoulder, are the foam moving towards or away from the shoulder, it is absolutely mandatory that I have an additional direction information embedded in the mesh. This is also necessary to make the foam vanish when it is far away from the shoulder. This specific direction changes for each rendered triangle, so I need to encapsulate it in a way or another on the mesh vertices. Thus, I guess I still need to use a basic of mapping to specify this sharp direction. To achieve this, I only need one texture coordinate, which I chose to set to V. See picture below. The idea is to have V0 on the outer edge loop of the foam, the C side, V1 on the middle edge loop of the foam, the ground side, and V2 for the edge loop that will be inside the island. The basic texture mapping. Here I do not really care about the seam problem. You can see it at the bottom of the mesh. I only work on the V coordinate, so the movement towards or away from the shoulder will be built from this simple texture coordinate. The easiest way to create the famous foam lines is to use the sinus of V. To make it move, I offset it depending on the current time and the wave speed. Sinus, frequency speed time, clipped at 0. Keep in mind that, in order to get sharp edges, I clip any fragment value below a certain threshold. Changing the clipping threshold creates larger or smaller waves. Changing the frequency creates more or less waves. Now, if I want the sinus foam to wash away as it enters the sear, I need to raise the sinus according to the V coordinate, like this. For example, sinus, frequency speed time, V, clipped at a good threshold T. Waves get thinner as they vanish in the sear. Now, let's have fun a little bit by adding noise to this initial shader. In order to make it more natural, as a noise-based texture, I use a simple RGB seamless noise texture that I made with GIMP using the solid noise generator. Seamless noise made with GIMP. From this, I can randomize the speed, the frequency or any other parameter of the sinus. Randomizing the frequency is quite interesting. It is a way to locally add more or less wave lines like this. Adding world noise to frequency, sinus, frequency noise, V speed time, V, where X are the world horizontal coordinates. See how some zones get more foam lines, while other zones get fewer. The generated sinus part seems to work quite okay, but I think it still misses some connections between the foam lines, and to add them, I need to rely on world coordinates. I could use world noise to add these connections, but I wanted to try a more controlled approach by using a handmade texture on top of it, mixing the sinus procedural waves under the hand-painted texture. But if I use a pure binary texture for a foam connection on top of the generated sinus waves, I have no control at all on the vanishing of this texture. That's why I chose to use a distance transform texture. Distance transform images are created from a pure black, a white base pattern.